Yeah, Mukesh, you can try now.
Yep. Yes. Yes. Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are perfect.
Okay. And now I am going to share my screen and let me know if you guys are able to see this nice presentation, which only have one slide, which says Kickstarter for Excel automation. Is it visible? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. Okay, so welcome guys to the day 9 of the Kickstarter session. Today, I am going to walk you through something which is called the Excel automation. Now, before I directly jump to this content and everything, over the chat, I have shared one zip file, which you might, all of us, you can actually access. It has the Excel file, which I am going to use. You can practice along with me. In case you are getting something missed, you can rewatch the recording. But the idea is if you can follow along, you can actually use that zip. I have already pasted it over the chat. So that is available. You can just download it and you can practice this again. Okay. Okay, so fine. So I hope my UiPath Studio is visible to all of you. So now let's make it a bit of interactive session. I would be monitoring the chat. I would be asking some of the questions and you guys can answer me over the chat. Okay. So the first thing, uh, how many of you have Microsoft Office installed on your computer? So if I simply go here and I say Excel or like this, right? So Excel is installed on my computer. If I search for here Word, Word is also installed on my computer, right? So how many of you guys have Excel installed on your computer? Can, okay. Someone has, someone don't have. Okay, fine. So we have a mixed crowd of, yes, people who are ahead, right? Now, why exactly we require Excel automation and why it is important, right? So Excel, as you guys know, this is tool available provided by Microsoft, again, where we can do a whole lot of analysis data. You might have seen in the data scraping sessions where you download a lot of data. It gives you a data table, and then that data table you put it in the Excel. Apart from that, Excel has a lot of features which are available. Macro is one of them, creating the pivot, creating the reports, creating the charts, storing the data manipulation. A lot of operation happens in the Excels, right? So that is why for any of the automation piece, whenever there is some data which is in a tabular format, we always require Excel to store, manipulate, or to share the data. That is where Excel automation comes in picture, right? So I am going back into my UiPath Studio. I have just created a simple solution. If I go to the project, right? So first of all, to start the Excel automation, if Excel is installed on your computer, then also you can do Excel automation. If Excel is not installed on your computer, then also you can do the Excel automation. I am going to demonstrate both of them. Okay. So do you guys understand what exactly are these dependencies, right? So whenever we start any project, if I go here, let's say to this guy, to the activities, right? Today, I want to do a Microsoft Word automation. I simply go to the activities and I search here something which is called Word. I am not getting any activity to do the Word automation. Why that is so? Because in my project, I have not told UiPath that I am going to do a Word automation. Similarly, if I have to do any kind of automation, maybe it a PDF, Excel, Word, first I need to tell my project that, okay, please load these dependencies. We want to do this automation. For Excel, whenever you create the automation, UiPath.excel.activities is the first thing which is added to the dependencies. In case you are creating a project and this dependency is not available, you simply have to go to the dependencies, right click on it, click on manage. And here in the all packages, you just have to search here UiPath.excel. This one, UiPath.excel.activities by UiPath, right? So this way, when I click on install, I am telling UiPath that I am going to create a project where I am using Excel activities, right? What would happen as soon as we add these activities? Now, if I go to the activities and search for Excel, I'll get all of these activities available, right? So the first prerequisite to get started with Excel is that you should have this dependency added, which is called UiPath.excel.activities. Okay. Now, let's first start by reading the documents, right? So I have already shared you that link zip file. I'll go to that zip file of mine, whatever I have, right? So this is the content which I have shared to you guys, Excel automation webinar. You would have a zip file. Inside the zip file, you have two files. One is called the XLSX file and one is called the annual survey, which is a CSV file. Okay. I'll first open the vendor data file. Let us see what exactly is the data here and what we are trying to automate, right? So this is the data which I have randomly taken from internet. And as you can see, there would be. Yeah.
Hey, hi, Mukesh. I'm really sorry to intrude in between. Can you please share the link on the chat? A few of the people don't have that link for the zip file.
Just now, Rohit Bore has already shared, and yep, it's already available on the chat. Let me just again drop it. And so it's a zip file. I'll just drop it again. Yep. Wait a second. I'll just again drop it for everyone. It's uploading and it should be available now. We good? Received? Shubham?
Yeah,
okay.
It means it's visible. Thanks a lot.
Okay, fine. Okay, so guys, if you are seeing and looking on the screen, I have got this Excel sheet where I have got some couple of sheet, ABC, sheet 1 and this, right? So let me quickly go and hide the sheets which I am as of now not working, and let's keep it clean. And I just want to work on this sheet 1, right? I have a data which is having some 697 rows and I'm having some 15 columns. This data looks for some government sector data, right? Now, let's say this is the data which I have received from some sources. This sources could be a data abstraction. I could have downloaded this from an email, anything, right? Now I want to do some operations on it. How exactly can I start, right? So in the UiPath Studio, the first thing we are going to go is create a new sequence. That is where we are going to start. So I call this sequence as Excel automation. Good practice. Whenever you start any automation, make sure you give a proper naming convention here. Don't write it as sequence 1, test 2. Otherwise, you would get confused that why this sequence was made. Okay. So we'll just wait for the sequence to load. Okay. Now it is available here. Now, if I have to ask you guys, for example, I have to click something on the screen. Which activity in UiPath are we using to click? Can somebody tell me which activity I use to click? Okay, somebody says click. Okay, if I have to type something, which activity I am using? If I have to type something on, let's say, Notepad, right? We are using type into. That means UiPath is so intuitive that whatever we are trying to do, the same activities are available here. Similarly, let's say if I ask you that I have to read the data, what do you guys think? And I have to read a range of data, right? So this is a range of data. This is a range of data which I want to read. Yes, awesome, right? So we are expecting that, yes, there should be some activity of read range, right? So since I already have added the dependency of UiPath.excel activities, let me go to the activities and just I'm doing a random search of read range, as most of you have said. I have this activities, right? Range. But when I'm searching for the read range, I'm getting two read range. One is for the Excel and one is for the workbook. Now the question arises, which one should I use, right? I'm going to tell you the difference between them. So that is where the integration come in picture. If in your computer, Excel is already installed, right? For me, you can see that Excel is available here. I am able to see the Excel, Microsoft Excel is installed. We can use the activities which are available inside the app integration and the Excel. In case Excel is not installed on your computer, then we can use the workbook activities. The functioning of both the activities is exactly the same. I'm going to show that you. So the first difference which you should notice is that to read the Excel, we have two activities which are available. Both of them, name of the activity is read range. So what is the difference? Excel read range would work when the Excel is installed on your computer, and the workbook read range would work when it is not installed. Okay, let's try to take the first one and see if we can start an automation. I drag and drop an activity called read range, and the first I'm getting an error which says that, hey, it is valid inside the Excel application scope or Excel application card. which means that all the activities which are coming inside the app integration, you cannot use directly in the scope, right? So for that, the first thing which you have to do is go to the activities, and it is asking me to use the Excel application scope. So let's search it in the app integration Excel, right? If I want to see all of them, you can simply go to the available app integration, and inside the Excel, you could see that all of these are available, right? So the first activity, if you want to use the Excel activities, is this Excel application scope, which means that I am telling UiPath that this is the scope of the Excel where I am going to work. Now this property is absolutely simple. If you notice here, this says that tell me the workbook path, text must be quoted, right? And if you go to the properties, you would notice here that this is nothing but a string. How do I know? If you notice here in the input argument, it is saying string, right? That means I need to pass the path of the Excel here. Now there are two ways to pass the Excel, right? You can click on this folder button, browse for files, and you can directly point it to the Excel wherever you have put, right? So let me just go to the Excel automation webinar, Excel automation files, and the vendor data.xlsx, and hit open, right? Now, if somebody of you have already seen Excel, we have some formats, right? XLSB, XLSM, all those type of Excel sheet can be also read by the Excel application scope. If this sometime what happens, you click on this browse for file button, it is not allowing you to do that browse for path. You can simply go to the file like this, wherever, whichever file you want to read, just shift and right click. And you would see that something which is called copy as path, which means that I am telling I am telling Windows to copy the complete path. This path I take here, and again, I paste it in this one, right? Something like this. And this is a string, right? So the first thing in the Excel application scope, we are going to pass the path. One more good practice here, we are never going to hard code the path like this. It should be always coming from an arguments, a variable, or some configuration file, right? So we never hard code data, because in case this automation is deployed to production, we need to change. We are not able to change, we need to change the code, right? So these things should be kept configurable. For this webinar, I am hard coding this, right? Next, let's go to the properties of Excel application scope, and let's try to explore this. The first thing is the display name. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to read the student data maybe, right? So first thing, I just change the name of the activity so that I know what I am doing. In case your Excel is password protected, you can provide the password here directly, right? This is the password, which is again in a format of string. If your Excel is a password protected string, that you can pass here, and you can edit the password as well. For me, I can directly open the Excel, so I can leave this thing blank, right? Workbook path, I hope you understand. There is this flag which says create if not exist, and by default, this is ticked to true, right? I'll just remove this file. This simply means that if the file, whatever you have mentioned here, is not available, do you want UiPath to create it or not, right? So as of now, if you see here, I am simply passing the vendor data.xlsx, and that is available. Let's put a message box here inside this, and I simply say that the Excel was read successful. So I simply say here Excel read was successful. Right? We are not reading anything, just loading the Excel and seeing whether it is able to read or not, right? So I just say save this. Okay, I'll go here and I say run the file. Now what would happen? UiPath Studio will go and it will try to read that file, whichever I have mentioned, right? So the file which I have mentioned is nothing but the vendor data. So we'll just wait for my robot to work. This green indicates that my robot is working. This is the project name, right? And once it is read successfully, I have done nothing. So I'm expecting a message box in the robot, which is saying that the Excel was successfully read, right? So if you can see, it has opened the Excel and Excel read was successful. That's it, right? What happens if I provide a data sheet which is not available, right? Let's say UiPath.xlsx. In the Excel automation field, UiPath.xlsx. Is it available here? This file is not available here. So if I simply go here and I select the file, which means that now I am telling UiPath that you go and read a file from a folder which is not available, right? Now, UiPath first will go and try to search the file in the folder. So this can be a situation where you are reading data from a source which you are not keeping the file. So you're not sure whether the file would be available or file would not be available. So I have received an exception which says that IO dot file not found exception. IO means input output, right? So file which you are using input is not available and it is an exception, right? That is where now you need to understand that we have got some couple of properties here. In the properties, if you'll see, create if not exist. This is a Boolean flag, which means that this has a value of true. It can be either true or it can be either false. By default, Boolean has a value of false. So if I just mark it as this guy, this now becomes true. What does it mean? It means that if the file is not available, do you want to create it? Let's say I am writing an automation where I require this file, right? So I simply tick on that one. Now the same automation, I just did a tick mark, right? Now let us see what happens. Now the expectation is if the file is not available, it should go and create the respective file and then give me the message box, right? So it simply created a file which is called and Excel was read successful, right? So if you go back here, you can notice that the file was created successfully by UiPath for me, which is uipath.xlsx, right? So just simple box, which is a Boolean flag, can save you a lot of automation, right? Now, instant cache period, right? How much size of the cache you want to use. By default, it is set to 3000. You can keep this to the default setting, but depending on your requirement, you can increase or decrease this one. Whenever you are working on files, there are some files which are called macro file, which means they have an inbuilt macro in it. So why do we write macro? Sometimes we actually have an option to automate the Excel with the help of Microsoft Excel only directly. So sometimes business people write some macros for that, right? So if you want to enable the macros, just set this setting to enable all. Otherwise, you can just disable and all of these options are available, right? If you have a data, let's say shared drive data, which is being used by a couple of people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, you only want to read the data and you want to make sure that your robot does not make any changes. You can always read the file in the read-only mode, which means that I am telling UiPath that yes, I am going to read the data, but don't change anything in the file. Just keep it on the read-only mode, right? This is done. Now, these two options I will show by an example directly. Okay, so now I hope you understand these properties of Excel that yes, we can do all of this and fine. So now I have just load the Excel, which was this Excel to the UiPath. Now UiPath is asking me, what do you want to do next? So as of now, I am using the Excel automation. So I just want to read the data. Let's see how exactly can we read the data. As a couple of people have said that use read range. So I'm going to use app integration Excel read range. Not using this one because I'm already using the Excel application scope. So drag and drop this activity here. You would have noticed if you drag it outside, it shows you an error that it is valid inside the Excel application scope. So that is the next difference. Activity is simple. Tell me which is the sheet you want to read. So if you see here, I have got a couple of sheets, right? So you can have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, ABC. As of now, I have hidden. Which sheet you want to read? So the sheet name is here, sheet 1. So the sheet name is sheet 1 here. Now, if you see here, there is a lot of data which is available. Now, the question arises, how would UiPath know which data should I read? Do you want me to read this data? Do you want me to read this data? Or do you want to read all of the data? All of that is absolutely possible with UiPath. How do you do that? You simply go to the activities. If you leave this property to blank, which is this guy in the properties, which is called the range, right? Again, let's explore the properties for the read range. Read range, this is for sheet 1, right? This is the range. Range, if I leave it to blank, which means that read all the data, whichever is available on the Excel. Once you read all the data available in the Excel, okay, can somebody tell me what is the output if I read all of these data in an variable? What kind of variable should I create? Okay, somebody says text, string, data table, Boolean. Okay, fine. Somebody says text, somebody says DT, DT, DT. Okay, now, if you notice here, this data is in a form of rows and columns. Text would not work here because text would be a simple, right? Hi, my name is Mukesh. something like this, right? We cannot read a data in the text. It should be in a form of rows and columns. So rows and columns means it should be in a form of a data table. Now, once I read this data from this activity read range, if you go to the properties here, UiPath is asking me, where do you want to save the data? Create a variable for. So do I have a variable here? I don't have any variable, right? Because we didn't create one. Now there are two ways to create variables, which you guys would have already seen, right? So I prefer to use the one which is like this. Go to any of the activity and here hit Control plus K, that is the shortcut, and give the variable name. So I just say dt underscore data. I'm prefixing it with dt so that I know that yes, it's a kind of a data table variable. Now, dt underscore data is available, and the beauty of UiPath, you can see that the variable type is automatically selected, so I don't need to do anything, right? Now, this data table is available here. UiPath is asking me sheet name, range. I have provided double quotes, which mean I want to read all of the data. Now, the next thing, does your data is having headers? So let's check. Yes, I do have, right? So these are the headers, segment, country, all of these are headers. I tick this checkbox, which is says headers. These two, I'll park for a while and let's do this, right? Once the data is available in the data table, I want to validate whether this data is correct or not, right? So how do I validate the data? Let's count the number of rows which we are having, right? So I simply go here and I'll use an activity which is called message box again. And here I am writing dt data, whichever data table you get it from the read range, dot rows. Okay. Get all the rows of data table, dot count. I am telling UiPath that whatever data table I have got, get all the rows, get the count. So UiPath will say, okay, for the data table, you have got 1000 rows. And what do you want to do next? I am saying that I want to print that message in a message box. Now, message in a message box, that means it's a string. So that is why I have to print it with a dot string, right? Now I'll simply go save this automation. I'll go here and I'll close this file. Maybe I'll just go and close this file. And let's go here and select run the file. Now what would happen? Once I am reading this, the expectation is UiPath should open the Excel. It should give me that count and okay, it has given 0. Reason being, in the Excel application scope, we never told it to read the vendor data file, right? So it was still working on the UiPath file. So it created the UiPath file. Inside the UiPath file, there was no data, so the count came as 0. Let me quickly go and rectify this one to vendor data.xlsx. Save this, go back and the file. Okay, now it should go and read the vendor data. In the vendor data, it should read the sheet 1 and then okay, 696, which means that it is telling me that we are getting 696 696 rows of data, right? Let me validate, go back to the Excel and I'll just open this one, which is called the vendor data. Okay. In the vendor data, let me quickly validate this one. I have got 697, including the header, which means the is correct, right? Similarly, I have did okay, somebody is saying don't close the script. Okay, so you can, I'll just keep it open for your reference. Okay, now similarly, I have used dot rows. You can also use dot columns, right? So the logic exactly same. Data table dot columns dot count, which means that count the number of columns. That's it, right? So this data table, you can do all set of operations. Now, inside the read range, sometime what might happen that you have a data which is not having these headers and the data is directly starting from here. In that case, all you have to do is just toggle this flag which says remove, right? Now it is not going to treat that data as a header, right? If you have headers, use this, otherwise just ignore it, right? So that was about reading the data. Now let's say I want to read any specific range. Let's say from here to here. I only want to read this data, which is highlighted in yellow like this, right? So this is starting from A1 and this is F27, right? So you always has an option in the here in the range. You can always use A1 to F27. That is how you provide the range, right? If you want to read all of the data, you provide A1 to F27. If you want to read a specific range, this is the way the range can be added. Okay, so that was about the read range activity. These two I'll talk in a little bit moment. Let me go back to the Excel application scope and show you one more property, which is called the visible now. If you would see here, whenever the Excel is working, it is opening the Excel in front of me. This might be a requirement. This might not be a requirement. That I don't want the Excel every time to open, right? I don't want to see what is happening in the background. I simply want to get the result. So all you have to do is just toggle this flag to off. The visible flag in the Excel application scope, not in the read range, in the entire Excel. So I am telling UiPath, I don't want to see what you are doing. Just give me the result. So I toggle this flag off. Now let me quickly save this and I'll close this Excel. I'll say don't save. And let's go here and run the file. Now it is going to read the range from A1 to F27. We'll just wait for the execution. And now I should directly get the count, which is 26, right? Because we have read it for F27, first row being a header, 26 rows. But if you notice here, everything happened in the background. And that control is with this guy, which is called the visible property. So that was about reading the data from the Excel. Now, a question to you guys. For reading the data, I am using an activity called read range. What do you think would be the activity to write the data to the Excel? Anyone? There is no right or wrong answer. We are all learning. Okay. Somebody says right range, right range, right range. Yep, absolutely. Let us see if that is available or not, right? So I'll go to the activities and I'll search for right range. Again, the same concept. I have two right ranges. We will talk all of this activity in a bit moment. Let's first try to understand the Excel. Now I'll drag and drop the right range activity here. Same concept. If you are able to understand one activity, all the other activity would be absolutely simple for you, right? So this does not work outside. So I'll just delete it. And now just drag it inside the Excel application. Right range again is a simple activity, which says write the range. So if output of the read range is a data table, what do you think would be the input for the write range? What do you think Excel should write? If I am reading the data, I am getting a data table. So if I am writing the data, what should I give back to Excel? Data table, right? The same concept. Whenever you are reading the data, you are getting a data table. So whenever you have to write the data table, right? Absolutely correct. Okay, so let me go to the right range activity, and this I am inside this Excel application scope, which means that whichever sheet you are going to write the data, that would be created in this Excel, which is called the vendor data. Now it is asking me, tell me the sheet name you want to create. So I want to create a sheet name, let's say copied data maybe, right? Now, if you see here, this is asking me the data table. Tell me the data table you want to paste. I go here. What was the data from A1 to F27? We have stored it in this data table, DT data table. So that means that output of this now becomes input for this one. I pass here this. Now this guy is asking me, okay, I'll go to the Excel. I'll create a new sheet. Do you want to write the data from the cell A1 or do you want to write it at some specific position? So let's say you want to write the data from G1, G2, A1, A2, F10, any cell, you just have to provide the cell number here. That's it, right? As of now, I'll leave it to the A1 so that we all could see the data from starting. Now, if I go to the properties, again, the same concept, it is asking me, do your data is having headers or not? Yes, I am having headers in my data. That's it, right? So let's go here, save this automation. As of now, if I run this automation, what would happen? The data from A1 to F27 should be now available in a new sheet called copy data. So I'll save this, go here and run the file. Okay, just wait. And now if you notice, I have toggled the flag of visible off, which means that everything will now happen in the background. First, it is saying that, okay, you have got 26 data. I hit OK. And now it will automatically create the file in the background and job done. Let me go back to the here and just open this guy, which is called vendor data. Let us see what has happened. Okay, So from the sheet 1, there is a sheet which is copy data which is created. I was successfully able to copy this data from one sheet to another sheet just by using an activity. Let me quickly go here and delete this sheet. Okay. And I want to show you importance of one important flag, which sometimes as a developer we tend to miss, right? In the Excel application scope, you have something, a property, which is called visible. I hope you understand the visible. I'll just enable it again so that we are able to see. This has one more property which called save changes. Save changes means whatever manipulations you are doing in the Excel, do you want to save it or not? As of now, the data was getting saved because the save changes was enabled and this flag was enabled, which means that after each activity, UiPath is doing a control plus S on the Excel. Now, do you want it or do you don't want it? If I simply go and remove this Excel of guy which says save changes, now let's see what happens. This Excel is open, right? I can just close this. And let's see if I just remove that flag, what should happen, right? I'll go here and I say run the file. Okay, we'll just wait. Okay, if you can see, the Excel is open. It has got 26 row. It has copied the data and Excel was closed. Now, if I go back and if I just open the vendor data, let it open. Okay, I'll just close this Excel. Just I'll open it again. Okay, this is the Excel which we were referring. So this time what I have done is I have removed the save all. So you do not see the copied data. But now let's say I have a requirement where I don't want to save at every place, but I want to save it at the end. So for that, you simply have to go to the activities and you have this same thing, which is called the save workbook in the app integration. Drag and drop it here, which means I do not want the Excel to save the data at each and every step. Rather, when all the operation is done, I want to save the workbook, right? So once it is available, I can do a save, go here and run the file. This is the second difference, guys, with the Excel application scope, which means that if the Excel is already open on the machine, still UiPath would be able to read and manipulate the data, right? It was able to read, copy, and do everything, right? So this is one of the difference, which is from the workbook activities, right? So as you can see, my Excel was open, still I was able to do the automation, right? So that was about reading and writing the data. And I hope now you understand what are these properties: save changes, visible, read only, and all of this. In the right range property, I have simply this guy, right? Now, somebody is asking a question that I have some formulas. Can we achieve that? Okay. Yeah, Manoj is answering that. Thank you, Manoj, for that. Okay, so now in here, if you see for the read range, I have got these properties, which are pretty interesting one, right? Let me show it to you. What are those? If you see here in the read range, it is saying that preserve the formatting, which means that preserve the formatting of the data which you are reading. So if I just open this vendor Excel, I'll just quickly open this guy. Okay, yep, it's here. If you see in the sheet 1 and in the copy data, in the sales price and in this sales price, do you guys see any difference? Can somebody tell me what difference do you see in this sales data with 15, 350, 15 and 15, 350, 15? What difference do you see in both of them? Yep, rupees symbol is missing. Absolutely correct, right? It is not able to retain the formatting of the cells. Let's say I am writing an automation where I want to retain the formatting. So how can I do that? I'll simply go and delete this one. This you have seen that the formatting is not coming, right? There is a simple checkbox in the read range, right? So that retaining of the formatting will come while reading the data, right? It won't come while writing the data, because if you don't read the formatting, how you will write it? So first we need to read the formatting. So I'll go to the read range activity. In the properties, you would see something which is called the preserve the formats. And I click on this one. But this comes with a warning, which says that preserve the format like decimals, date, currency, everything, but it will reduce the performance than cell by cell, because what happened, the preserve formatting preserves the formatting cell by cell. So it will go to 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, like this, cell by cell, right? So you would see a time delay while performing this operation. But again, that is the requirement. So we will simply go and say run the file. Okay. So now this time what I'm expecting to get the data, but this time with some symbol, right? 26 is available. And let me go back to the file. And yes, I think it's collapsed here, right? This is done, right? So that simple checkbox make that difference of preserving the formatting. Okay, so that was about the read range and writing a data. Now, this has one more property which says use the filter. If your source sheet, such as this one, right? If I simply go here and I apply a filter of Germany, now when I am reading and writing the data, do you want to consider the filter or you don't want to consider the filter? If you want to consider the filter, you have to click on this checkbox which says use the filter. Otherwise, what would happen? UiPath will read only the data which is visible on the screen. If you want to consider the filter, just go here and use this one which says use filter, and that will consider the filter while reading the data, right? So all the formatting filters has to be told to the robot while reading it, right? Not while writing. So I'll collapse this Excel application scope for a moment. And now I want to show you that if Excel is not installed on your machine, and now I hope you understand that we have activity called read range to read the data, write range to write the data. Now, if I simply go here and I select read range, I have got two read range. This definitely works with Excel application scope. This we have already seen. Let me go here and I'll create a new sequence so that will make more sense. And I'll say that this is for the workbook activities, right? So this one was for Excel. Now I'm creating the same automation for the workbook, but this time you already know that what exactly is happening, right? So first time I'm going to use this activity, which is called the read range, but this time I'm going to use workbook. So if I use this workbook here, you would notice that this is not telling me that where exactly you should, it should come in Excel application scope. And if you remember this read range, which we have used here, we did not need to tell it that where is the Excel located, because Excel path was already taking from the Excel application scope. However, for the activities, which is for the workbook, the first thing you have to tell that where exactly is the workbook. So I just copy pasted the path here. Again, what is the sheet name? The sheet name is sheet 1, I guess. This is the same concept. What is the range? I want to read the complete range. If you go to the properties, same set of properties. Does it have headers? Does it have password? Do you want to preserve the formatting? But if you notice here, some options are missing, right? The format option is not available. The filter option is not available. However, the output of the data is exactly the same. You can go here, hit Control+K and write pt_data, right? So I'm telling UiPath to copy the data from, let's say, A1 to F30, just using a random range. Store that data in a variable is called dt data. This exactly is the same, right? Now to write range, again, I go here and use an activity called write range. Now, write range, I'm going to use with the workbook write range. Drag and drop it here. Again, the same concept. We need to first tell which is the workbook. The Excel application scope, it is already taken from the scope. What is the sheet name? So the sheet name, I'll tell that this is the book. Data table, same concept, right? Output of this guy becomes input for this guy. The output was dt data. Which cell you want to read? You want to write it to the cell 1. Now, one difference you should notice here is that the Excel is open in the background. This guy, right? I am telling UiPath to read the sheet 1, but this time I am telling it to use with the help of read range. With the Excel application scope, we have seen even if the Excel was open in the background, I was able to see because the visible was there. Here you don't have that option of visible and anything. But the difference which is here, if you simply go and run this file, if the file is open on the computer, it would not be able to read the data, right? It says the file which you are trying to read is accessed by another process. Why that is so? Because it is using the file system. This file is currently open by the Microsoft Excel. So it is saying that Microsoft Excel is doing something. I cannot read the data. So that is the thing to remember. Whenever you have to use the workbook activities, the file should be closed. So if I simply go and close this file here, I say, okay, save. Now I just go and yep, the Excel is closed. And now let me go here and again run the file, reading the data from the sheet 1 of a particular range and pasting it to a new range. And this time the execution ended in 5 seconds. Let me go here, hit a quick refresh, and let's see what data we have. And yes, I have got, do you want to, days already? Okay, so I'll just go to the workbook sheet and you can see this same data, whichever I have selected here is available here. Now a question to you guys. If you see here in the sheet 1, when I was copying the data with Excel application scope, I was getting the header. This time I am not getting the header. So what do you think what I have missed? Anybody? Let me know in the chat. What do you think I have missed? So, and what should I correct? Okay, so in which activity should I add the header? In the read range or in the write range? Okay. Okay. So everybody says write range, right? But tell me, if I don't tell it to read the header, will it be able to write the header? Yes or no? No, right? So let's see what are the properties. So that is how we do everything. Whatever questions you have, right? Just do a small automation, practice it, and you will get the answer. For the read range in the properties, I have told UiPath to read the headers. So headers was already available. But while writing the data, I never told it to write the headers, right? So it is available in both the activities. Fine. So I hope that clears that you have to first tell UiPath that, okay, I am going to read the header, and then you have to tell that, okay, I am going to write the data in the header as well. Okay, so that was reading, writing. Okay, fine. So somebody is asking some question. Let me see quickly chat if whatever I can cover. Add header checkbox. Okay, header checkbox, fine. Okay, so this is the data which I have. Now let me just quickly delete this data. I'll delete this guy. We'll just work on, okay, let's work on this guy now, whichever I have, right? So I'll use this guy for the reference now. Now, sometimes there are requirements where we have to insert the rows or we have to insert the columns in the Excel. For example, if I give you a requirement that you have to insert a data between these two cells like this. Okay. Or let's first consider the columns then. Okay. So I have data in column number, row number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. After row number 10, I want to insert the data. I want to do this thing. And I want to, let's say, color this or do anything, right? That again depends on the business logic. But for me, the requirement is I want to insert the rows between the existing data, right? So in UiPath, we already have got default activities. I don't have to write any piece of code to do this. I just have to know that, okay, if I have such requirement, how I can do that, right? So let me quickly go and come back to the default stage, which was this, right? I have to insert the rows, right? So I'll go back to my automation, which was Excel automation. This here, I'll just delete this right range, save workbook. This guy also delete, and this guy also I will delete, right? Now I'm just using an Excel application scope to read the data. In the properties, I have take the save changes, right? I have removed the save changes activities. So I have enabled this one. Make sure that you enable either one of them. Now, I want to insert the rows, right? So you should understand the difference between the rows and the column. So these column number are the rows. Sorry, these 7, 8, 9, 10 are the rows, whereas A, B, C, D are the columns, right? If I want to insert the rows, I simply go here and activity search for insert rows, right? You can see that not only insert, I can actually delete the rows as well, right? I simply go to the activities and I search something which is called the insert delete rows. Now, insert delete rows is a simple activity. You can see that it is asking me, tell me the sheet name where you want to insert. I am telling that, okay, I want to insert this here in this sheet. I'll go here and simply paste it here. Now, how many number of rows you want to insert? I say I want to insert 5 rows. This is the position. Position is number 10, right? I want to insert it at the 10th position. So this position is the position of the rows. So if I go here in the copy data, you could see that I have got this 10 small business and then government. So let's go here and I say run the file and let's see that in action, right? Benefit of Excel using, you can see what is happening. So I'll enable the visible property, save this, go here and run the file. Right. So let's just wait for this automation and it completed speedily, right? So as you can see that this I have able to insert. So similarly, if I have to delete the rows, right? If you go to the properties, the activity is same. Okay, you don't have a different activity to delete the rows. You have the same activity. All you have to do is go to the change mode and instead of the add, you just select remove. Save the automation, go back here and run the file. Okay, that's it, right? I was able to add and I was able to remove. Now let's say, okay, can we insert data into that row? Yes, absolutely. Yes, so let's say I have inserted these many rows, right? Now I have to write the data in this cell. What is this cell? A10. So now you tell me, Sarita, which activity should I use to write the data in cell A10? If I have to write the data in cell A10, which activity should I use? Right range, right? Absolutely correct, right? So once you have inserted the rows, you know that where you have inserted, you can just use an activity called write range, get the data table and write the data here. So guys, I have one question now. If I have to insert the rows, I am using an activity called insert the rows. If I have to insert the column or delete the columns, what do you think? Which activity should I search in the activity panel? Nobody? Let me know in the chat. If I have to insert a column, okay, let's see. Somebody says insert column. I just go here and search for column. Insert and delete columns, right? Now, if you notice here, insert and delete column, when I was reading the data, I was getting 2 read range. When I was writing the data, I was getting 2 write range, right? When I am inserting the rows, I am not getting 2 insert rows. I'm only getting one with the Excel processing and this one, right? Nothing is available here. So that is the benefit of using the Excel app integration. So if you see here, I want to show you this guy. In the app integration Excel, if you are using all of these activities, if you are using the Excel application scope and Excel is already installed, you have all these list of activities which are available. You can have the tables, pivot, refresh pivot, all of these activities are available. In the processing, you have autofill the range, execute the macro, VBA lookup range is available. However, if you do not have Excel installed, if you simply go to the system and inside the system, I guess in the file, in the workbook, if I have to use the workbook, I only have these options: append range, read column, read range, write range, and only these options are available, right? So Excel application scope, Excel is already installed on the machine, so you get a lot of features, right? So I'm skipping the part of insert and delete column. I hope you guys understood that. So I'll just give that as an assignment to you guys. Okay, fine. Okay, now interesting stuff, right? So let's go and delete this guy from here. And so now I have, let's make some more scenarios. I already have this copied data. I'll just delete the other data so that we are able to see the operations. It is having already, I guess 10 rows of data, right? Now, if I have a requirement, I want to simply do this thing. Okay, I'll just go and remove the filtering first of all from here. From the sort and filter, I'll remove the formatting. So I have a requirement. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. I want to do this. Copy some of the data and paste data here like this. This is my requirement. From one sheet, I want to copy the data and paste it to the other sheet, right? Before I do it, I like to take a pause and ask you guys, what do you think? How can I achieve this? From the sheet one, I want to copy a certain set of data. Just tell me the activities name at the high level. And I want to copy the data here, right? So how can I copy and paste the data? Just which all activities should I use? Okay, read and then insert. Somebody says append, right? Yes, append is something which I'm going to tell now, right? Read and then append. Okay, now UiPath has an activity which is called append range. I'm going to tell you when you should use and when you should not use it. Okay, if I simply go here, append, you would see that what I am trying to do here. I am trying to append a range of data which is available here, right? If I simply go here and I use an activity which is called append range, again, app integration, Excel and append range. If you see here, append range is available for the workbook as well, right? And by the way, you can always use the workbook activity inside the Excel application also, right? So that is also doable. So I'm going to use the append range of the Excel application, and I'm just going to drag and drop the append range. Append range is again a simple activity, not much complicated. Is asking me that where exactly you want to append the data. I'm saying that I want to append the data in the copy data, but this guy is asking me, okay, I'll append the data, but tell me where is your data, right? I never told where is my data. So first I need to read the data. If I have to give you the same task, I tell Shrikant, okay, Shrikant, you have to copy the data. Shrikant will tell, okay, I'll copy the data, but first tell me where is the data. Same thing append range is asking me, right? That you tell me where is the data. That's a fair enough question, right? So first I need to read the data. So that means again, to read the data, we are going to use an activity which is called the read range. Same, our old friend read range. We paste it here from the sheet one, which data I want to read. Let's say A1 to what is this guy? E19. So I go here, I say A1 colon E19, right? And the data output, I want to store it in a variable of DT data, right? Now, does my column have headers? Yes, I do have. In the append range, I simply want to use an activity which is called the DT data, which means that I am reading the data with the headers and I am telling UiPath to simply append it. Save this automation. As you can see, I only have 11 rows of data now. I'll go here and say run the file. Now, what is happening? UiPath will go read the data from the sheet one in a data table, and then it will paste it in the copied sheet, but the data is not visible. Why? Because we have made the save changes also. Okay, append range in the copied data. Let's see what has happened. Data is appended, right? But it is appended at the bottom. Why that is so? Because append row add the data till the point data was available. So if you remember previously what I did, I manually copied the data here and I simply did a delete, which means the cells were already occupied. So append range went to the last occupied cell, which it found to 28, and it simply appended here. this might not be the actual requirement what you want to have, right? If you are very sure that you cannot have such blank cells, you are free to use append range that will directly go and write the data here, right? So if had it been the scenario like this, where I don't have any, any occupied cells. Now, if I simply go here and I say append the range, what would happen? Now it will go and paste the data in the correct cell. This works perfectly. But in case you have some of the blank cells like this, insert, 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 it will paste it after that. Now the question arises, I already have a data. I am not sure I could have the blank cells, but still I want to paste the data here. How do I append? Can I use the append range? The answer is no. In that scenario, you have to use something which is called read range and the write range. Now here you have to think as a human is thinking, right? If I have to ask you, you have to copy this data from sheet 1, this data, paste it to the copied data, and you tell me which cell I have to paste. Okay, if I have to ask you guys, tell me the cell number, which cell the robot should ideally paste the data. What is the cell number in this Excel? In the copy data, what is the cell number? Which? A11, right? Because we have data till A10, right? So as a human, we understand that yes, data is available till A10. So that is the same thing I want to teach the robot. So first what I'll do is I'll read this data. I'll count the number of rows. I'll get a number of 10. I'll simply increment it by 1 and then do a write range. Let me quickly show it to you how that can be done, right? So that is in the scenarios, right? Again, you can always write in macro, you can always write in logic to delete the empty cell as well. So this is one of the other alternative which you can always perform, that you simply go to the Excel, which I was deleting manually. You can do it via the robot macro as well, right? That is also an option. But the other option which I was talking is that before writing the data, I am just going to use an activity which is called read range. I am telling UiPath that first you tell me in the copied data, read all the data, store it in a data table variable, and I'll call it that this data table, I just want to get it for the count, and store this data in this one. I'll use an assign activity, right? I'll use a simple assign activity here. I create an integer variable here. So all of this can be done in a single activity, but I am doing it a couple of activities so we all understand. I'll create an activity called integer count, and in this count, I simply say that whatever data already is having, just count. So I just say dt.rows.count. That count the number of rows which you are having. So it will go to the copied data, it will count the number of rows, and I will get a number 9. Now, if I go back here, this will giving me error because the count variable should be an integer. That's it. Now, I have to write the data. To write the data, first I have read the data that is available. While I am writing the data, what I'll tell UiPath that when you are writing the data, which is using a write range activity, you write the data in the copied data. Okay. Now, which data you have to write? You have to write the data of DT data, not the DT count. That is the same data again you will write. So I'll say here DT data, which I have to paste. Now this guy is important. Where should I write it? So for that, first I should know that what exactly I am getting in the count, right? So a good way, just put a debugger here, the breakpoint like this, go to the debug, put a breakpoint and debug the file. This time I want to see what is the count which I am getting in this count, right? Before I write the logic, I am just getting, stop the automation here. In the locals, you could see that int count is assigned a value of 9. which means that UiPath is telling me that Mukesh, your copied data is having 9 columns. Fine. Where do I want to write the data? In 11. So how much should I increment? 9 plus 2 equal to 11, right? So I go here in the right cell, starting cell. I am telling UiPath that A is constant for me. It was 1. So I'll just remove this one. I'll use plus. I would write here, whatever count you are getting, just increment it with 2. Why I am incrementing it 2? Because the count is getting 9 and I want to write in 11. So it will come here, it will make this expression as A. 9 plus 2 equal to 11. So it will make it as A11. So since 11 is a number, we need to convert it to string so that it could accommodate in double quotes. So that's it. Now what would happen? It will simply go and write the data. So even if I now just copy this data to any random number, 24, right? So what would happen? It will simply go and write the data, right? So let's try to run this in a debug mode and see how it behaves, right? First, I'll go and run this automation in a step-by-step manner. First step, robot has gone, read the data of the copied cell, got the count. The count which I received is 23, right? So the count which is 23. Now I have to write it in 25. So I need to add 2. From the sheet 1, we have read some data. That data would be now available in the DT data. Now when I am writing the data, I am telling UiPath to write it in the copied data, but take the count dynamically. So this count is dynamic now. Simply go and click on step into. So it has written the data immediately after wherever the data was available, right? So that is also you can do while using the reading and the writing, which means that the same way as a human, you count how many number of rows and you append the data. Same way you can teach the robot as well. Okay, let's go back to the agenda. Okay, fine. So till now, I was just reading the data. So I was using an activity called read range. Tell me, if I have to delete the data or a delete of range, which activity should I use to delete a range of data? Any random guesses? I don't think it's random anymore, but what activity do you think? Remove, okay. Delete rows, okay. Okay, so let's search for remove. In the Excel, the processing, I have remove duplicate range. Okay, so let's search for delete. Delete rows. Insert or delete rows is available, which means that it will delete the number of rows. If I specify 5, it will delete 5 rows. If I specify 6, it will delete 6 rows. But if I have to delete a range from, let's say, A1 to A22, let's say I want to delete this complete range or something like this. Now, deleting the range. So what do you think, which activity should I have here? Delete range. Somebody says delete range. Perfect. In the Excel, I have something which is called delete range. Same like read range, write range, delete range. What is the range? What is the sheet? And it will simply go and delete the data, right? So this I'll give you again as an assignment to explore this activity, which is called delete range. But I hope you guys should be able to explore delete range. Do you think you guys would be able to use the activity called delete range? Yes or no? Let me know in the chat. Yep, perfect. Okay, append range we have done. Okay, now I want to show you one interesting property here of this guy. This is a scenario which you might come across. Okay, so if you see here, whenever I am reading the Excel application scope, we have to always specify something which is called the name of the Excel. I have to even specify path of the Excel. Sometime, if I have to use the same application scope, same Excel application scope to do some other task, How can I do that? That is also possible. So if I want to do some different kind of operation, which I don't want to do in this scope, but let's say in a different XAML file. So I have created one XAML, two XAML, three XAML. We have created segregated code. We have separated the code because we don't want to write everything in a one XAML file. But again, I don't want to reread the Excel application scope again and again, reading, closing. I don't want to do that. That is also possible with this variable. If you see here in the Excel application scope, you have something which is called the workbook. This guy. Okay. Now in the Excel application scope, you have something which is called the workbook, which means this entire data would be now available in the workbook. So I just go here and I hit Control+K and I say that WB for the vendor data. Now what would happen? UiPath will create the variable for me, which is here. Okay, it's WB. I wanted to create a workbook for this one. Now, whenever I have to do some other Excel application scope, so I'll just go and use an Excel application scope. One option is definitely to provide the URL here. The other option is definitely to go here and use the existing workbook. And in the existing workbook, I simply use this one. Right now, if you see here, now if I simply go here and I point it to one other Excel, in the D colon, this, and this, I am getting an error. It says the following overload groups are not provided. Only one overloaded arguments of the workbook file is possible. Can somebody tell me why exactly Excel is giving me this error? Why not in this, and why I am getting this error here? Any random guesses? What do you guys think? Why I am getting this error here and I'm not getting the same error in the previous one, right? Both the Excels are same. What is the difference what we did here? Due to the workbook variable, right? Because yes, absolutely right. Because we already have told UiPath that I want to use the existing workbook. Now UiPath is telling me first you decide, do you want to use the XLSX from the folder path, or do you want to use the workbook? So it is saying that I cannot work on the overloaded things. Either you remove this or remove this, right? So I simply go and remove this guy, and that's it, right? So in case you are providing the workbook, you will get all of this. Now, this workbook object is a pretty interesting object. It has got a lot of properties. I would like to show you some of them. So just go here and I'll put it on the debug mode. And let's go here and I say debug the file. Okay. Whenever you run any automation, not only Excel, you can always use this guy, which is called locals, to see what all values your variables are having, right? So I simply go here and I click on this guy, and the variable which we were working was WB vendor data. If you click on this one and click on this small button, you could see that I am getting all these options. I am getting the complete file path. I am getting the workbook object. Inside the file path, I am also getting the length of the this path. I am also getting what is the anchor, and all of these things are available, right? Which means that, for example, if I'm writing an automation where my share drive is only allowing the length to be only of 40 characters, 20 characters, 15 characters, I can use this variable, evaluate the length at the runtime, and then do the next set of operations, right? So this length, this file path. So sometime what might happen that inside the Excel application scope, you might require the file path, right? You might require the file path for logging the information in the logs or writing it on the email. Inside this activity I require, but we have passed it from here, right? So how I would get that which workbook object I am having? So all you have to do is just use this guy, which is called vendor data.file path, right? So if I simply use an activity called assign activity vendor WB vendor data dot file path, I should get this one. File path dot length, I'll get this one. That's it, right? So everything is available here. You don't need to worry that, okay, I have provided the workbook, now where I'll get the path and all those details, right? So that is possible with this one. Okay, so now I want to ask you guys, I have, Rohit says that it will increase the bot performance. Definitely, right? I don't want to every time open, close, open, close, open, close. Rather, I create the workbook object, pass that workbook object across the examples, right? One question, guys, I want to copy this complete sheet and paste it as a different sheet, not copying the data. I'm not going to do like this Control C, Control V. I want to do this operation, right click on this, move or copy and create a copy, do this. I want to do this. I want to copy the sheet. What do you think, which activity should I have in this one? What should I search here? Duplicate. Okay, Sangeeta says duplicate. Let's search for duplicate. Okay, we have got duplicate, but not in the Excel, Sangeeta. Okay, Rohit says right range. So Rohit, we don't want to use read range, right range. That is one option where you read the data, you preserve the formatting, and then you write the data, right? Somebody says copy. So let's say I am using copy. Yeah, perfect, right? Copy sheet. How do I know that this is the correct activity? Excel, inside the app integration, Excel, and I have something which is called copy sheet. Now, what would be the scenarios where you don't want to use read range, write range, but want to use the copy sheet? Think of a scenario. I exactly want to copy this data from sheet 1 to like this, right? So it has pasted, right? But these are exact replica. Whenever we do a read range and a write range, we have seen that formatting is lost. Now to retain the formatting, to retain everything, I have to explicitly tick those checkboxes, and UiPath strictly says that it is going to reduce the performance. So if you have a requirement where you have to completely copy the sheet rather than doing the read range and the write range, I can use the copy sheet, right? So copy sheet would completely make a copy of the data and do this. Copy sheet, why you use in the real-time operation? Because let's say you have a very critical piece of data already available in the Excel. The robot is supposed to do something, but you don't want to mess the actual data, let's say. So you create a copy of that, then you work on the copy data, and then you merge or anything, right? So you have this activity which is available for copy sheet. We just copy the complete data and paste it at the other sheet, right? So I would like to take a pause, and now if I simply go here in the app integration, available app integration Excel, you could notice that I have got all these activities, right? And these are self-explanatory, right? So copy sheet was one of that, close workbook, append range, sort table, insert column, filter table, delete column, create pivot table. In the processing, we have autofill range, which means that I have a formula. I want to drag in the formula, autofill range, copy paste range, execute macro. You have already written a macro in the Excel. You want to execute, use invoke macro, lookup range, remove duplicates, insert delete rows. All of these activities are available. Now, you might not be aware that how should I use it? So the best way, for example, I don't know how do I use lookup range. So I simply right click on it and click on this button which says help. What would happen? It will directly navigate you to docs.uipath.com directly to that activity. And this is applicable to all the activities which are available, right? So lookup range, simply you have to provide the range. You have to provide the sheet name, the name of the sheet in the workbook, the value you want to search for, and the output is the cell where the value is found. And the best part, it is having an example also. So if I click on download example, I'll get an Excel, I'll get a code that how this activity work. Remove duplicate range, copy paste range, all of these are available for your references, right? So all you have to do is just go and practice the use cases. Okay. Now, I will come to the Q&A now. And before that, I wanted to give you guys an assignment, right? So you guys have this vendor data copy available with you, right? So this I have already copied. What I want you guys to do is that in the sheet one, if you notice that there are separate countries. There is a data which is for Canada, France, Germany, Mexico, United States, right? What I want to do is from here, I want to, okay, let's do it like this. How many rows of data are here? Okay, I have 697 row of data. So I want to create sheet like this. The first sheet, I want to say that this is from 1 to 100. This one is from 100 to 200. This one is from 200 to 300. And the last one is for 300 to 400. I want to create the data. So when I say 1 to 100 means 1 to 100 rows, I want to paste it here. The other next here, the other next here, other next here. This one, I want to say that this is the copy of the data, right? Once this everything is done, so you would see that I already have a lot of data which are extra in this sheet, right? So if you simply go here and click on unhide, you would notice that I have intentionally put some ABC data for you. I have put some, if you just go and unhide the sheet, you would see that I have got some sheet 8 and all of these things, right? You have to delete all of this data, all of these sheets. So the final output should only have 1 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 3, 300 to 400 copy data, and all the other sheets should be removed. Do you think you would be able to do that? What do you guys say? Yes or no? Nobody? Is that a very tough assignment? Okay. Okay. Yes, we can try. Okay. And once you try, what you have to do is you have to post the same, the LinkedIn in the social media. And Rohit, can you just tell us the tags which we have to use, right? You can tag myself, you can tag Rohit, you can tag the other speakers, MVPs, right? And that way we will see, and I'll get to know that, okay, you have successfully able to complete the assignment. I'll just repeat. So this is the hashtag which you have to use, right? So you have this sheet of data which is having a lot of data. So these are just the random numbers, right? You can just make it like 1 to 10, 10 to 20, anything as per your requirement. But the ask is you have to delete all the extra sheets which are available, and you should only have this data. And then you had one sheet which is exact replica of the exact data. Okay, so I'll give you a hint. You can use simply read range and the write range. Read range and the write range, read range, write range. For copy the data, use copy sheet. For deleting the sheet, you can use the delete sheet and all those activities, right? So just have a look into these activities and you should be able to do that. Okay, so I like to take a pause and let's take the questions. Okay, so yep, I'll provide my social media details so that I
have done that already on chat.
Okay, fine. So I can do paste it here. Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah. Any questions, Rohit? I guess the participants can unmute themselves now. Or
Yep.
okay.
Mukesh, you just went on mute. I'm not sure.
Okay, so there were a lot of questions on the chat. Please reshare the Excel. So you guys can unmute yourself and ask the queries. If not, you don't have any queries, you can always give the feedback on the sessions. Happy to take feedback, positive, negative. You don't like the session, you like the sessions, and in case you have any queries, let us know the queries. So I'll again, yeah.
So Mukesh, we can store the Excel data in arrays.
Arrays. Okay, yeah, we can do that, but why would you like to do that, right? When you are using a read range activity, it is already giving you a data table, right?
Actually, sometimes we are getting data in the form of sentence and it is in one cell. So in that case, we need to bifurcate that. So using split, I'm putting all the things in array.
Okay, so in that case, you should not use the read range activity.
So my question is a bit different. So I
Okay.
want to use double dimensional array. Is there any possibility to use double dimensional array?
Double dimensional array, kind of something like dictionary, you are saying?
So
I guess it would be a 2D array, Mukesh, right? But Manazir.
yes, correct.
Okay, so I can always create a dictionary, right? If that is the requirement. But if your requirement is, if it is coming as text, you can always read the data in a data table. You can get all of that, put it in an
So
array.
Mukesh, my criteria is that if I'm able to create two-dimensional array, then I can easily manipulate each and every row and column.
Okay.
So I can fetch the subscript.
Sorry, Manoj, go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah, Manoj,
Yes,
please.
Manazir, yeah.
So I can fetch the subscript, and then it will be easy for me to manipulate the data from a specific range, or I can continue with the specific range, or I can.
Okay. So just tell me one thing: are you actually extracting the data from a single column, or from a single cell, or from the entire sheet?
Okay, for example, having 10 rows, and each row is having one sentence in a cell.
One sentence, okay.
And only in one cell.
Only in one set. What does that mean, one set?
For example, my name is Manazir. This is the whole text, which is in A1 of the X. Similarly, in the next cell, there is another sentence. I live in Bareilly. So in this way, I have the data. So if I'll put it in some two-dimensional array, then it will be easy for me to fetch the subscript, and then I can manipulate it more easily.
But in that case, Manazir, don't you think that this is suitable for 1D array? Because the data is presented only just in one column.
Yep.
And if you extract the data table, you can easily convert that into a 1D array instead of 2D array. Because if you want to convert into 2D array, you would need a separate column for that. Or do you have any kind of a other thing or that you need to map this with, that A1 is your this, A2 is this, something like that? By using that way, you can create a 2D array.
Manoj and Munazir, right? So I have pasted my email ID over there, right? So you can drop me that chat, right? I think that discussion we can have later on, right? So seems like a specific use case and a bit advanced one, right? So I'm expecting, people, if anyone have any questions apart from that, right? Which are not very, you can ask the question, but this one would take a long discussion, right? So we can take it. Yeah. So you can just ping me over the Instagram or the LinkedIn, right? So we can connect separately and we can discuss it there. Yeah.
Fine. Thanks a lot for that.
Okay. So yes, any other question, guys? Excel UI automation, right? So Excel UI automation we do when the default activities are not working. So for example, if I have to do something on the developer tab, let's say you have to enable the developer tab and all, right? So you can simply record the same thing with the help of selectors. UiPath Excel, this Microsoft Excel gives you pretty clear selectors. All you have to take care is that your selectors should be very specific. It should not be a generic one. You should use wildcard. So this UI automation is absolutely possible. You can do it just like any normal other desktop applications. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys for the feedback.
Good afternoon. I have a question managing large Excel files. I have been with a huge one with more than 750 rows and 17 columns, but I have an error. I put in the chat. And I don't know if there is a parameter within the activity that I should include, or if there is a limitation on the program, no, on the memory of the system or whatever. This is the error.
Okay, so I have read a large Excel. So if you see the latest activity pack of UiPath, right, which is UiPath.Excel activities, if you go and use the recent one, you are able to use the pretty large size, but that is absolutely a valid point. If it is a very, very large Excel, so you can always read Excel as a database. That option is also available, which means rather than reading it in this one, you can always read Excel as a database. Excel as a database would give that form in the form of a database actually. And then the other way could be to read it in batches. First 1 to 1000, 1000 to 2000, 2000 to 3000, and so that, right? Now the question arises, where can I find the code? How can I find the syntax? The answer is forum.uipath.com. This is a very common problem which is already posted in forum.uipath.com, and very couple of good solutions are also available, right? So if you simply go to forum.uipath.com, search for how do I read the very large Excel text, you will get a lot of ideas. Apart from that, you have something which is called UiPath Marketplace, where you have the custom activities which are built by developers, UiPath community, and the UiPath companies. They are available here for your utilization, so you can use them as well. Does that answers? Okay, perfect.
Hi, Mukesh. Good
Hello.
evening.
Good evening, Sarita.
Good evening. Thank you for today's excellent session. Mukesh, I'm trying to see this delete range activity, but I could not able to find this activity.
Yes, so that is why you are not finding the delete range activity.
Yeah.
Okay, why that is so?
I'm trying to find it in activities.
Yeah, app integration Excel delete range, it's here.
Oh, 1 second.
Got it?
Delete range. Under which section do I need to look up?
Just search delete range and it would be in the app integration Excel.
I did that one.
Okay, so do one thing. Go to the project. In this
Okay.
dependency, right? Yeah, uipath.excel.activities. Right click on manage. Okay. And see which version are you using. And I think no, it should be okay. Somebody says, are you in the classic version or the modern version? But that should not make an impact. Yeah.
Let me check one. I don't know.
Okay. So do one thing. Go to the home. Okay, I'll show you. Go to the home. Okay. In the settings. Okay. In the, I guess, in the design. Yeah. Fine. You have something which is this one. Use modern for new projects. Okay. So when you created the project, you have created it with the modern activities. All the project, whichever I was showing, that was in the classic version. So create a new solution. First go to the file, settings, design, toggle this flag off, which is for use modern for new projects. Create a new project and then you should have it.
So it is available in modern thing, right?
Yep, it would be available in modern, but with some different name and some different look and feel, right? But it should be available.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mukesh. And may I know one more thing? What is instance cache period property?
Interesting question, right? So
no. You said, I mean, I didn't catch up that point, so I'm just
okay. Right click. So in case after this session also, right, for any of the activities, if you want to know, just simply right click on the activities and click on the help. Okay. It will navigate you to docs.uipath.com. This is applicable to all the projects of UiPath. If you're not able and you're not satisfied with the answer here as well, then you simply go to forum.uipath.com, right? So here it is what instance cache says, right? How long you want to keep the Excel alive after all the child activities are executed. The default value is 3000 milliseconds, which means 3 seconds, right? So this is all this complete setup which is required. So you can just have a read. I'll just paste that link in the chats for you.
Thank you, Manish. Sorry. Thank you, Mukesh.
No problem. Okay, so somebody is asking for the files. I think we have already shared, so I'll just drag and drop it again. Okay, you should have the files now. Is it good to start with the modern experience or in the old experience as a fresher, right? So anyone, right? Whichever, it's easier to do the automation, as Subham has already answered, right? It's easier to do the automation in the modern activities. It's less configuration, but old would have, if you go to search for the forum and all, right? So most of the solution would be available in the old one. So.
Mukesh, I have one question.
Yep.
during the automation for the current session, Excel sheet is not opening in the maximize window.
Mhm.
It's open in the minimize window, and all the automation are going on.
Mhm.
So maximize it manually.
Okay, so actually that Excel depends on this one, right? So if you simply go and do it like this, maximize window activity sometime work, sometime it does not work.
Yeah,
Right? So
I
in
tried,
the Excel, yeah, right.
but it
Two
doesn't work.
hacks. I would say hacks for that, right? You maximize this, save this Excel, and then close this. Maximize this, save. Okay, as I have maximized, save and then close. Then it will open always in the maximize mode. The other thing is, I think it has a shortcut which it has, right? I think Alt space, I guess. So it has this one, right? So you can come here and I think it has some Alt space or something. It's a shortcut which is for this one.
Alt space and X.
Yes, Alt space and X, right? So you can use the send hotkey and it will just maximize that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, guys. Any other questions? Rohit, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yep.
I think we do not have any questions as such. Yeah, if you still have questions after the session, please do write to forum.uipath.com. We'll get you answers there, and also please join the Ask Me Anything sessions on Saturday, 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time, so that you can actually ask in person your questions to the experts as well. So thank you all for joining. I think we are a little past the scheduled time. Thank you so much, Mukesh, for your time. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Manoj. Manoj, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Good day.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.